You are 60 meters down inside a cave, and the only way back to air is the way you came in. There is no surface above you, just rock. The water is clear. Your light reaches maybe 10 meters into the dark, and a thin nylon cord runs along the floor ahead of you, the guideline. Follow it out and you live. Lose it in here, and you don't. So you follow it. And then your light finds something on the cave floor that isn't stone. It's a diver. Mask still in place. Tanks still on his back. All of his gear intact. He has been down here for years. To reach him, you swam exactly as deep as he did. The only difference between you and the body in your light is that you still have the air to turn around. He didn't, and neither did the two men who came down to bring him back. So what is it about this place that keeps pulling people down to die in it? Here is the part most people never think about. In open water, when something goes wrong, you go up. The surface is always there. It is the one exit that can never be taken from you. In a cave, there is no up. Above your head is solid rock, sometimes hundreds of meters of it, and the only way out is the way you came. Back along that thin nylon line, in the dark, often in water so silted by your own movement that you cannot see your own hand. Lose the line, and you will swim in circles inside a space the size of a cathedral until the air is gone. And the deeper you go, the less your own mind can be trusted. Below about 30 meters, the nitrogen in the air you breathe starts to act like a drug. Divers call it the martini effect, or raptures of the deep. It feels like calm. It feels like clarity. What it does is quietly take apart your judgment, so that the diver making a fatal decision feels, in that moment, like the most reasonable person in the world. He swims a little deeper. He stops checking his gas. He decides he has time. The water gives you a bill for going down, and it comes due on the way back. Every minute you spend at the bottom of a deep cave can cost you more than an hour of slow, staged descent to keep the gas from tearing your blood apart. 10 minutes at the bottom, 10 hours owed to the water before you are allowed to surface. Now here's what makes this different from almost every other way people die underground. The people who die in these caves are not lost tourists who wandered in. They are some of the most highly trained, most experienced technical divers on the planet. Instructors, record holders, people who had done hundreds of these dives and knew every number by heart. They read the warning signs. They knew the names of the people who had died in that exact passage before them, and they went down anyway. Some of them, in their final minutes, took the regulator out of their own mouth. The air was still flowing. They took it out anyway. So this is not a story about carelessness. It is a story about a place that takes the best people we have, the ones who understand the danger better than anyone, and keeps them. If you want to keep going down here with us, into the water that does this, subscribe and stay close, because it gets worse the deeper we go. The next place looks like somewhere you could swim on a summer afternoon. From the surface, it looks like nothing at all. An hour north of Tampa, in a stretch of Florida swampland called the Chassahowitzka Wildlife Management Area, there is a pond. Brown water, a few logs, a wooden boardwalk. On a warm afternoon, you could wade in up to your knees and think nothing of it. Below that surface, the walls fall away. At around 70 feet, the daylight ends and the rock opens into a chamber the size of a cathedral. Keep going, and the system drops past 300 feet into a maze of tunnels and rooms that branch off in the dark. Picture a 30-story building, turned upside down, flooded, and buried under a swamp. That is what is under the pond. Divers call it Eagle's Nest. They also call it the Mount Everest of cave diving. And at the entrance, there is a sign. Not a no swimming notice, a skull, and a warning that turning back now is the smartest thing you will ever do. The people this warning is meant for are not beginners. That is the trap of this place. From the road, it looks like nowhere, so it pulls in the curious. From inside, it kills the elite. In October of 2016, two experienced instructors went down together. They made it 1,300 feet into the system. On the way out, something went wrong, and they never reached the surface. When they were found, one of them had left his rebreather behind on the cave floor, his life support gear. It was still working. He left it in the dirt and tried to swim out without it. His dive partner didn't leave him. They were found close together, both out of air, around 550 feet from the exit, 2 football fields from daylight. They almost made it. These two knew the sign was there. They knew the names on the list of people this pond had already taken. And they came back to it, again and again, the way the best of them always do. So the question stops being how a pond kills trained divers. The question becomes why someone who knows exactly what is down there keeps choosing to go back. Because the next place we go, people didn't just die in the cave. Their friends went back in after the bodies, northern Norway, a valley called Plura in winter. To reach the cave here, you first cut a hole through the ice on the surface, and then you drop through it into water sitting at 2 to 4 degrees Celsius. Cold enough that bare skin stops working in minutes. The dive itself is a traverse. You go in one entrance down to around 130 meters and out another, more than a mile of flooded passage under solid rock the whole way. There is no surfacing in the middle. Picture swimming the length of 20 football fields, in the dark, in near freezing water, with a ceiling of stone where the sky should be. On the 6th of February 2014, 5 experienced Finnish cave divers went into that traverse. 2 of them did not come out. Both were seasoned, both knew the system. Deep inside, in the worst place to have a problem, they were lost. Then the second story begins. An international recovery team, including some of the most respected cave divers in Britain, went in to bring the bodies up. They reached a point, looked at what the rest of the recovery would cost, and called it off. Too dangerous. Norwegian police closed the cave and sealed it. The 2 men would stay where they were, under the rock and the ice, indefinitely. That should have been the end. It wasn't. On the 22nd of March, the friends of the dead men came back. Finns and Norwegians, around 25 of them, moving roughly 1,100 kilograms of gear into the valley for an operation the authorities had already declared off limits. They were going back down into the exact passage that had just killed 2 of their own. The numbers on that first recovery dive tell you what they accepted. 7 hours underwater just to reach the bodies and begin. And if a flooded passage shifted or closed behind them on the way, the dive home stretched to 10. 7 hours down to touch your friend. 10 if the cave decided not to let you leave. Here's what I keep coming back to. The authorities said it was too dangerous to bring them up. The friends agreed it was too dangerous, and they went anyway. This is where the question of this whole story sharpens. Eagle's Nest takes people who keep choosing the danger, but these men weren't chasing a dive. They had nothing to gain down there. They knew the cave kills. It had just proven it, and they swam back into it for 2 people who were already gone. If you want to stay down here with us, for the ones the official record gave up on, subscribe and keep going. Because the next man didn't go back for a friend. He went back for a stranger he had never met, and it cost him everything. The stranger's name was Dion Dreyer. He was 20 years old, and in December of 1994, he was diving support for a team in a flooded sinkhole in South Africa called Bushman's Gat. In English, Bushman's Hole. It is one of the deepest freshwater caves on Earth, and it sits high in the mountains, around 1,500 meters above sea level, which does something cruel to the math of a dive. Up there, the thin air makes the decompression on the way back even longer and more punishing than the same depth at the coast. Somewhere in that descent, the young man blacked out and sank. He went down past the point anyone could follow. His body settled at around 270 meters. Stand the Eiffel Tower up in the dark and put him near the base of it, under that much black water, with solid rock closing the way out above. Too deep to reach, too deep to bring home, so he stayed there, for 10 years. His parents did the only thing they could. They fixed a plaque with his name onto the rock above the entrance pool, where the water meets the air. Every diver who came to Bushman's Hole after that read his name before they went under. They all knew he was still down there. In October of 2004, an Australian named Dave Shaw came to set a record. He was a senior airline captain and one of the most capable deep cave divers alive, attempting depths almost no rebreather had ever reached. At the bottom, far deeper than almost anyone goes, his light found something lying in the silt. Equipment. A diver on his back, arms reaching up. After a decade, Shaw had found Dion Dreyer. He could have noted it and left. Instead, he tied a thin line to the body so the young man would not be lost again, surfaced, and contacted the family. He made them a promise. He would come back, and he would bring their son up. He knew exactly what that meant. He knew the depth. He knew that every single minute he spent working at the bottom would cost him well over an hour of slow ascent on the way back, hanging in the cold to keep the gas from killing him. He knew what 270 meters does to a human being. He went anyway. On the 8th of January 2005, Dave Shaw went down to keep his promise. His own helmet camera was running the whole way. He reached the body in minutes, and then the dive came apart. The plan had assumed the body would stay where it was. Instead, it lifted off the bottom, light, drifting, and the recovery line tangled with the gear on his head. Working at that depth, breathing hard, Shaw lost the time he did not have. He died there on the floor of the cave, beside the stranger he had come back for. 4 days later, while the team was recovering equipment, both bodies rose to the surface on their own. They came up together, wound into the same line. The man who had been lost for 10 years, and the man who went down to bring him home, tangled in the dark and brought up as one. This is the center of the whole thing. Eagle's Nest takes people who keep choosing the danger. Plura took friends who went back for friends. But Dave Shaw went back for someone he had never met alive, knowing the depth that had already killed him once, and it killed him too. So the question is no longer how the cave kills. It is what reaches up out of that water and pulls people down into it, against every instinct they have. Why the best of them keep going back. That pull has a name among divers, and what they say it feels like is the strangest part of all of this. Divers call it narcosis. Below about 30 meters, the nitrogen you breathe under pressure starts acting on the brain like a drug. And for some people, it does not feel like danger at all. It feels like calm, a warmth. Old divers had a name for it: raptures of the deep. The deeper you go, the more peaceful it feels. And that peace is one of the things that kills you, because a calm man does not turn around. That is the physiology. It explains a slowed reaction, a missed gas check, a bad decision made to feel reasonable. What it does not explain is why someone climbs back into the water afterward. Ask the people who do this why they go, and the answers get vague in a specific way. They talk about the silence, about a place no one else has ever been, where your own light is the first light to touch the rock, about how the rest of life thins out until only the next few meters of line exist. They're describing the pull as something close to peace, in the exact place that has the highest odds of killing them. This part is not measurable. Treat it as what the divers themselves believe, not as fact. You already know how strong it is because you watched what it overrode. A man kept his promise to parents he barely knew and died at the base of it. Friends went back through near-freezing water for bodies the state had given up on. Trained instructors read the warning at the entrance and went in anyway. Every one of them understood the math. The pull was stronger than the knowing. And the clearest proof of that is who is still down there right now. Not everyone comes back up the way Dion Dreyer eventually did. In the deepest systems, there are divers whose bodies were never recovered at all, because reaching them would only add another name to the list. They are still where the water stopped them. Marked on a survey sometimes, left in place, the cave kept them. No one has fully explained the pull. We can name the chemistry of the calm. We cannot name the thing that makes a person feel it and decide the way down is worth it. And the strangest part is that the people who go deepest don't describe it as fear at all, not fear. That is the thread running through all of it. The instructors at Eagle's Nest read the sign with the skull on it, the one that lists the warning every diver passes on the way in. The friends at Plura knew 2 bodies were still down there in near-freezing water when they cut the ice and went back. Dave Shaw knew the exact depth where Dion Dreyer had been lying for 10 years, and knew what that depth does to a human being. None of them went in blind. Every one of them had the numbers. They all knew, and the water pulled harder than the knowing. So picture it one more time. You are back in the cave, your light reaches a few meters into the dark, and the thin line runs out ahead of you along the floor. There is a shape in the beam where there shouldn't be one, and past it, the line keeps going deeper, into water no one has mapped, toward whatever it is that made all of them decide the way down was worth more than the way back. You still have the air to turn around. Most of us live our whole lives without finding the thing that pulls harder than the fear of dying. Some people find it at 270 meters, in the dark, under solid rock. The question worth sitting with tonight is whether you have a place like that. Something that would pull you past the warning sign, past the names, past every reason to stop. If you want to keep going to the places the surface never sees, stay down here with us and subscribe. There is always deeper water.